Hello, I am going through a phase right now in my life where I am willing, totally willing. I don't know if I'm there yet, but I am very, very willing to dissolve all of my jealousy, all of my anger, all of my struggle with humanity, all of my hopes. Hope is rubbish anyway. Throw that into the trash can. Hope needs to be recycled. Hope should be thrown into a compost bin where it gets decomposed and something better comes out of it. Something more concrete. Hope is dope. Hope is neurosis. Hope is stagnation. Hope is unempowerment. So I do not want hope in my life. Hope, absolutely not. And I have had a lot of hope in my life. And that's incredibly naive. And it puts someone onto some kind of back burner, it puts someone onto into a kind of state of suspension where I'm not even breathing. I'm not even breathing in and out. I'm just stagnated. It went to so far sometimes that I actually stopped breathing, even in therapy sessions at the Primal Center. One of my therapists, Leslie, said to me, "Nicola, you're not breathing anymore. What's going on? My gosh, this is scary." And I was like, oh my goodness. Whew, I didn't even realize that this is terrible when we stop breathing, when we're like so in such suspense and under such tension and anxiety and anticipation of something else to come, something else to happen. Whether it is some outcome to happen in the therapy session or some guy to come into my life or a rich man or some gallerist says, "Yay, baby, your art is stellar, bring it in." And I have to just come to this realization, it's never gonna happen. Okay? And let's sit with that for a moment. Whatever is going in your life, whatever is happening in your life, like if you're expecting something to happen, why don't you just say it's not gonna happen? Okay? And then what? How does that feel? How does it feel if I'm sitting here looking at that beautiful Stellar J? Hello. Hello. And this is the now moment. I'm looking at the Stellar J, and I didn't have to hope for it. Yeah, he just flew up here onto that railing, and he looked at me like this. And that just is the now. It is just happening. And me saying it's never gonna happen that I'm gonna find a gallerist. That's also a now moment, and I can breathe with that as well. And it's good to completely say it's never gonna happen. It's never going to happen. And I might even die after a day. I might die after him. Okay. So what? It doesn't matter whether I exist or not. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't make any difference at all. And I don't think my activism does any difference at all. Any. But you know what? Just because I realized that, and I talk to other people who are completely down in the gutter because of this, and they want to give up because of this. They want to stop caring because of that. Wow, that goes quite far. I'd rather die than stop caring. If I stopped caring, I would already be dead. Then it wouldn't even matter. Then I'd be that would be a complete waste of energy for me to stick around if I stopped caring. So even if my activism does nothing to the world, matter of fact is there are some people that said to me, now that I used to like dolphins, now that you bring this up with the dolphin slaughter, now I'm particularly not going to care. I've seen people like this talk to me like this. That's a temper tantrum. That's the ego talking. That's the little troll energy. That says da 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 da. It's some kind of offstandishness. It's a counter reaction. It's like, don't you tell me what to do. That's extremely childish and immature and irresponsible to behave like that and not even listen to the other person. Why and what and how did they get to this point of view and what is it all about? And maybe learn something about the dolphins and how sentient they are. But when the door is closed to that compassion, and the ego bounces everything off with some kind of sadistic snicker and troll energy, then there's no way I can get through to these people at all. It's just, they're iron walls, iron maidens that will bounce off. So it's an armor of ego and psychological defenses. The ego always is aware of a possible threat to the person, a possible threat of shame. Even if it's not meant as shame, it will be perceived as that. So everything's being blocked off. When someone says, you think you're better than, you think you're holier than thou, that's the ego being afraid of my activism putting them to shame. I've seen people put this in many different versions and words. That same principle. Like, women will say it in a different way. They will say, they put us to shame by showing us how much they care. So they put us to shame. That's why I know I have to be very, very careful in how I word myself when I talk to people, so that I do not come across as intending something anywhere near this margin. Because I'm intending the opposite, okay? I want people to become empowered. That is my intention for the world. Not to put more shame into this terrible wound that is already festering and smoldering. This terrible shame wound that most humans have. Most humans, whether they're aware of it or not. They have been shamed by their parents, consciously or unconsciously. Intentionally or unintentionally, this has happened. And then the ego wants to block that off, that this will never happen again, and they will suspect anyone and anything, any situation to bring this back on that kind of shame, like, oh, you think you're better, you think you're grander. They can only see things through this filter. They can't see the things for what they really are. I am an activist. I'm just an ant of activism that comes along. I have no grandness whatsoever. I'm a gray mouse. I'm coming along, and I carry a little messenger bag, and there's a message in it, and that says, hello, the animals are suffering. And they can't see that the animals are. They only see how you think you're better than anyone else. So I'm shining light on this right now because this is absolutely critical that we look at this situation. And that's also why I'm hated so much, because here I am. This is all I'm talking about almost the whole time in my life. Is activism, is bringing awareness, it's like doing your contribution to make the world better. It's an appeal. And people will see only through this lens of ego. And they will see, oh, she's a drama queen. She's telling me what to do. She thinks she's better than me. She thinks she's in charge. Da-da-da-da. All this entire thing. Shame is the underlying feeling. And I'm trying to bring awareness to this so that maybe you can stop, whoever does that, you can stop right now. And you can take off those glasses, those shame glasses. Take them off and look at what it really is. Look at the situation. Go to Sea Shepherd, go to the Taiji dolphin massacre, what's happening in Japan. They're butchering dolphins in the cove. A film has been made about this by Rico Barry. I cannot watch that film. I've only seen bits and pieces. I have to go like this. I break down. I completely lose it. But for anyone who's not this extremely super receptive and sensitive and hyper sensitive out there, and most people are not, they can go and they can look at it. And maybe you'll cry. But it's important that you watch this. Okay? And that has nothing to do with me, the dolphins. This has nothing to do with me being grandiose, and I am everything but grandiose. Believe me, I feel everything other than grandiose. I feel very, very, very helpless. I feel very meek. I feel very puny, actually. Very puny. And I want to talk about this also because it's very liberating to talk about this to my orange tablet. But, the situation is the dolphins are suffering. This has nothing to do with me or with anyone else. It has nothing to do with Ingrid Newkirk as a person, or Pamela Anderson, or Paul Watson. Those people are not saying they're above you. They are messengers of a situation. They say, look at this situation. That's all. Don't look at me, look at this situation. Yeah. It helps sometimes to catch people's eyes when someone looks like Pamela Anderson. Okay, that is an eye catcher. Okay? It's some kind of catalyst. It's a conduit. It's a bait. To look like that, it's a bait. It's not meant as a bait, but it is. It is a welcomed bait. But I don't know if the people will go from the bait then to the actual picture. I don't know if that's what's gonna happen. But it doesn't hurt to use a bait to get more people to actually listen in the first place. It's a pity that it has to be done through this, but that's what's happening, okay? And if Peter wants to use sex as a form of advertisement, then they should do it, because that's better than not having anyone looking, right? Do you agree? I mean, that's pretty obvious. But anyway, the messenger is not the end object. The messenger is not the scene we should be looking at. Okay. The messenger is just the messenger who's pointing out to the other picture, the other situation, who says, please look at it. Look at it, and don't think about me, and don't think about me as being grandiose, or don't let the ego think that I'm trying to put you to shame or something because my grammar is better, or because I'm more educated, or because I happen to be caring about this all day long. That's not my intention. That's not our intention to do this to anyone. This is only what the ego thinks it is. The ego wants to make it into this, but that's not what it is. The real situation is that there are dolphins being butchered alive, and they are screaming. Their babies torn away from them. It is so bad that the mothers drown. And that's also why I stop breathing sometimes, because I'm in so much suspension and so much stress. I actually forget to breathe, and that's what the dolphins do when they're in stress. And for dolphins, this is absolutely life-threatening. When they go into stress, they don't come back up to the surface. They have a blowhole that is their breathing tube. They have to come up to the surface to breathe. They have to spit water out and breathe air in. And they have to do this quite frequently. Not as frequently as land animals. But they have to do this. They come back up to the surface after catching fish, and they have to come back to the surface to breathe one time really deeply in and out. Breathe in, and then they go back down. And the dolphin mothers, they stop breathing. And they drown. They suffocate because of the stress of having a baby torn away from them. That's how severe this is. And those dolphins, they are even more sentient than humans are. Humans are quite sentient and complex with everything, with the nervous system, with the neocortex. Dolphins have larger neocortices. There is more activity going on, and they have more complicated peripheral nervous system, much more complicated hearing system. They see through the ears. They see through echolocation. It's a completely different way of living. And yes, they think about philosophy. Yes, they think about consequences. They think about future. They think about actions. They think about psychology and all of these things. They're highly, highly, highly evolved beings, soul-wise and physically. And people treat them, they butcher them up like they're just like the fisher. For the fishermen, they see no difference in tuna or dolphins, and tuna are also very evolved fish. There are some fish that are very evolved, that have evolved parallel to mammals. Dolphins are mammals like we are. They have evolved from Pachycetus, and Pachycetus was a land animal. They were catching fish in Pakistan. That's where the name Pachycetus comes from. and that was 48 million years ago. And they had a very big tail, very, very, almost like a dinosaur, but they were mammals. And you can see that this big tail obviously has also its roots in the reptilian era. So we have evolved from reptiles. We have evolved from small dinosaurs, okay? Those were the ones that survived those meteor wars, and that came the meteor showers that came down to Earth. They have survived the ice ages. They were able to crawl into little niches and caves, and they were able to survive. Some of them grew hair that helped them to survive the cold. And this cold winter of meteorites coming down that blocked out sunlight, created an ice age, and so on. Incredible circumstances that shifted things so that mammals evolved from the era of reptiles. And so the really large reptiles did not survive. They didn't have anywhere to go to protect themselves from this. The little ones survived. The ones with hair survived. And so the first rodent type of animals evolved. And from these rodent type of animals evolved Pachycetus 48 million years ago. And they in turn had a long time to evolve from the first rodent animal to the Pachycetus, and then many, many, many other species in between that branched off here and there and here and there, and the human lineage itself branched on different branches, coming towards this state, and Pachycetus towards all the whale and dolphin species that we see today. And that's quite a dramatic evolution that they have taken over all these millions and millions of years. Very, very, very gradual little adjustments and adaptations, mutations that happen to be adjustments and adaptations. And when they were, then that was beneficial, and they kept it, because the ones that had the beneficial adaptations, mutations, they procreated. They made it through. Many died out, and there were so many subspecies in between, and the big ones, again, didn't make it. Small dolphins made it. And then from those small dolphin type of whales, all of them that we see today have evolved out of it, including the blue whale. And people don't seem to understand the vast distances of time that causes this to happen. They see things from a very narrow-minded view. They see things from a very I-centered view of, I am here and I can't imagine that to happen, thus it must not be true. But they don't take into consideration the incredibly vast amount of time that brings on these types of mutations and adaptations and things that evolve out of it. And the human is not a finished product either, okay? So obviously the human is evolving, and 10,000 years ago they had a lot more hair on their bodies, okay? They were almost like we are now, but with a lot more hair, with a lot bigger fingernails and bigger toenails. For example, if you look at my feet, when I cut my toenails, there's almost no toenail on my little toe. It's like this tiny. So that has evolved, obviously, and it's gonna continue to evolve until there are humans. I'm not contributing to evolution because I don't have kids, but there are others like me that do, and or that carry those genes, and it will carry on, and in time there will be humans without fingernails and without toenails, without, because it's not going to be needed anymore. It just it it dissolves because it's not necessary. And also the ones with less hair and less keratin, less nail or this material that the hair and the nails are made out of. Less of that makes everything a lot smoother skin, with less hair and so on. It's more desirable, obviously, has been, or it would not have evolved in that direction, and it will continue, and then there will be humans that have no hair on the body at all, just on the scalp and maybe the eyebrows and eyelashes, and that's it. And no hair anywhere else. And obviously, when we look at beauty and cosmetics, this is already what is being what's seen as desirable by women and men. So, and it is going in that direction. And if people will survive, and I think there will be some people who will survive the drama that is coming, caused by the ego, caused by denial, caused by religion, and so on, that will bring it on. The very things that people believe in. I had a friend, she said that was before 2012. That was before that final day, that the Mayans or whatever predicted. And she said to me she wants the end of the world. And I said, what? A woman who's really actually caring and has rescued a lot of animals. I'm glad I didn't see her house though, because I don't know how many animals are there and how unlivable those conditions are. But when I talked to her, she wanted to help, and she felt bad, she cried, she felt compassion, but everything was jumbled and twisted in her brain. Strong Christian, fear of death, real strong, fear of hell. She's been told this, she's been threatened into this her whole life. Finally, the friendship ended because of her religion. And also, she was the one who quit the relationship. I was very sad about it, but that's because I didn't give in to it. I didn't say, yeah, it's good that you have that religion or whatever. No, I didn't say that. I criticized that religion. I stood up against it. And she couldn't handle it. She didn't like it, what I said. She didn't like that I said there are no mermaids. If there were mermaids, they wouldn't be looking like mermaids. So, this whole idea that she had was so contrary to reality and to how things function on this planet, and so contrary to science and to very logically observable things. She was living in a make-believe world, and she wanted that make-believe world. That was her identity, became her identity, and it was very sad for me. Very, very sad. It's so much suffering because of this, because of those mindsets. And I think it's better, for me it's better to be alone and to make some goofy, dorky videos as my companion than to be talking once a week or so to a friend who says incredibly awful and depressing things to me, who talks about hell and stuff like that, or death, how they're afraid of death and all of this. And it's very difficult for me to deal with it. Very difficult. Because death is not an enemy. Death is not the problem. The problem is suffering. And they don't seem to understand it. They don't understand this. The entire Catholic and Christian and all these other offshoots and other religions and Muslim and whatever, most religions seem to sort of embrace suffering. Saw a video on Mother Teresa. I already knew that because I read a really interesting article in the Times magazine about her when her diaries came out. And she really thought that suffering is a gift and it is some sort of portal to a better afterlife. And it's very dangerous, that mindset. Some Buddhists believe it. It's very dangerous. That will never get us out of suffering with that mindset. The Buddha was the philosopher who taught the end of suffering. That was his mission, to set people completely free, to end suffering in the world. To end the suffering that is caused by the ego and the self-images and religion and this division and this war and greed and all of this. To end that suffering that arises out of that. There's still suffering going on, and there's some terrible suffering in the world, also in nature, but it does not compare to the suffering that is caused by the monster, the ego. The ego can become very monstrous. And we need to be aware about this. We need to become consciously aware about what are the consequences of our egos if we don't start looking at it consciously and really become aware of what that does to us. The denial, this make-believe, this clinging to ideas, fabrications, clinging to it, clinging to denial, clinging to the group thinking, because they want to belong, they don't want to be cast out, they want to have friends. Like they said, if you want friends, then you better not like Hillary Clinton. That when someone says that makes me want to like Hillary Clinton 1,000,000 times more. That's another thing I wanted to talk about for about 5 minutes.
Are you finished now with the video?
Not finished yet.
Still making the video?
Yes. This is exactly what my life is about. My life is about boundaries, learning boundaries for myself, setting boundaries. This is my boundary. Here I am. I like Hillary Clinton. If you don't like her, then that's your business, but don't come over my boundaries with it. Don't, if you tell me that I will not have friends if I like Hillary Clinton, then all I have to say to you, okay, bye-bye, have a good one. I like Hillary Clinton now even more. So that's my boundary, you know. It's very important that we set boundaries and not let someone scare us into their ways, into their tastes, into their fashion, you know. And the same applies to beauty. There's great power in being ugly. I derive tremendous amount of power of being ugly. This is it's a form of civil disobedience for me. My right that I take to be ugly in this world of extreme vanity. This is my right of being homely, dorky, nerdy, and very different, and very weird, and very, very, what do they call me? Eerie, or scary, or spooky. People called me spooky in LA when I was petitioning for the whales. And when people say this to me, there's a power that comes up inside of me. Not because they're afraid of me, but because they find me so awful. They find me so adverse and so, what was that other word that they used? Forgot now. They find me so gross or whatever, you know, that this total rejection, you know, there's a power that comes out of it for me, and I can't explain really what it is. I can't really put it in words. I don't know. Maybe we can talk about this. Maybe you can comment. Maybe you can make me videos. I would really appreciate it if you could make me videos. And if you don't want to show your face, then can you just make a video showing something else while you talk? Something like that. I am not perfect. I'm blabbing along. This is not a perfect presentation. You don't need to be perfect when you make me a video. This is also another misconception that comes out of, particularly in aristocratic circles. That's the equivalent to the seal clubber saying to his son, if you want to be a man, you don't cry over the baby seals. The aristocratic dads, they say, if you want to be a respected man later on, you cannot make any mistakes. You have to be perfect in everything you do. That's another way. It's the same thing, you know, just on a different level. And it's embedded into almost all of us. I know a woman, she cannot even paint a stroke on the piece of paper, because then it wouldn't be perfect, and it has to be perfect right up front. So because it has to be perfect, she can never paint. The limitation in this, and the fear of public rejection that is in that, and the mental enslavement that she puts herself into, but it's also caused by society, that is so painful for me to see someone be in such social enslavement. She also has to be thin, and she has to be beautiful, and she has to be perfect, Hollywood perfect in everything. There's the mental enslavement is just endless. I find that absolutely obnoxious. That is not how I want to live my life. I create joy. I really generate power out of it when someone rejects me. So this is me. I don't know. I'm probably very rare with that. And yes, I do feel very insecure. But this message that sits in me, that message is bouncing like this. It says, I need to be heard. I need to come out. The message says that to me. The message says, you must show me. You must show the message. Bring this message to the world. It is so powerful. This is a different thing. This is not me. That's the art that speaks. That's the message of infinity. That's the message of love. Okay, you guys take care.